everybody. Welcome back to another week of the Let's Talk Social Innovation podcast. I hope you've had an amazing start to your week, but if not, we can kickstart that right here. I'm your host, Ian Kahinde, and y'all know the deal. I got to get through this week's bulletin board. So tomorrow, November 19th, take a study break in the 35th floor seminar room and join FHC's writer-in-residence for a mini writing workshop. Come prepared to work on a writing prompt and chat over hot apple cider and donuts. It's drop-in style, but please register in advance. The link will be down below in description, whether you are watching or listening. As always, if you are interested in coming on this pod like my incredible friend Rory, there is a nominations form in the link tree, which you can find in the description. If you are interested in coming on the podcast next semester, or you have somebody in your life who you think deserves to be in this podcast, you can fill out the form on their behalf, and me and my team will reach out to you as soon as possible. And then lastly, I'm old for a college student. I'm going to be getting out of here in April. We need a successor. If you are interested in taking the reins of this podcast, you do not need to be trained in anything media or anything editing. We will teach you on the job. It is a paid intern position for next semester. If you are either an honor student or interested in becoming an honor student, there is a form for interest that you can fill out, and we will reach out to you as soon as possible. But anyways, y'all, bygones be bygones. Everything else out of the way. The reason we are here is Rory Monaghan, the founder of the Unplugged project. How we feeling today?
I'm feeling excellent. Yeah, it's been it's a busy week, but I'm on top.
Yeah, no, November is terrible for school.
Yeah, it's just kind of nonstop, stress and suffering, and you just got to accept that, no matter who you are, it's probably gonna suck. It's not an easy time, but it's high stakes, so
yeah,
gotta stay. Yeah.
So in this week's episode, y'all, we'll be getting into Rory's backstory as we always do. We'll talk about the Unplugged project that he runs, among some other pursuits that he has. Also, we'll be touching on being a double major, double minor, speaking of how hard school is and everything.
Yeah, no kidding.
Then we'll have our artist spotlight. And in the second half of this week's episode, we'll be talking about unconventional pursuits and pursuing your passion. But anyways, everything else aside, take me from the beginning, Rory.
Yeah, so I was born in Dallas, Texas, and I lived in Pittsburgh afterward. Well, I lived in Chicago, and then I moved to Pittsburgh. I grew up here, and I went to ECS for kindergarten and stuff. It's right across from, right across from Squirrel Hill by Regent Square, bordering on Frick Park. So every day after school, we'd all, build forts in the woods, and that was a really formative part of my childhood. I met a lot of my friends that I still have to this day, who I travel with, who I work on projects with, including my best friend Giuseppe. Shout out to Giuseppe over at Case Western. And then I moved back to Dallas, which was kind of unfortunate. But that's where I got into more content creation with my friends. We had a little Minecraft YouTube channel. We did a lot of stuff with that. And kind of when I moved back to Dallas was when I started to be interested in experimenting with music. I was enrolled at School of Rock, which was, I think a lot of people know what it is, but they basically teach lessons. They have a studio, and it's like a group thing where you basically form a band with other people your age. And we performed in live venues. And so we were performing in bars in this area of Dallas called Deep Elm, which is right now by downtown. It's a lot of alt, hipster kind of crowd. And it's a really cool little area, especially for Dallas, because there's nothing like that really anywhere else down there. But I was performing at bars, and I performed at the House of Blues in front of 500 people. But I would never say that music was something that came easily to me at all, honestly. I think I have to work pretty hard to do well at music. I really want to participate in a band on campus, maybe next year. And I have a friend who's studying abroad in Berlin right now that I was making music with before he departed. But I didn't really have this gravitational pull towards music. It was kind of something I did because my parents wanted me to do it, and I didn't appreciate it. I don't think the way I do now. But after that, I was playing guitar, and I played a little bass, and I actually did do a show with drums, which is kind of funny thinking back on that, because that's what I'm focusing on now is percussion. And then I moved back to Pittsburgh because we didn't like Dallas very much, and my mom got her old job back.
I was going to ask,
yeah.
What was it like living in Dallas?
Yeah, it's kind of a terrible place for a kid to live, I think. I don't think it's, I had some really great friends after I moved schools and stuff, but when I first went down there, Dallas has like a lot of white flight, like just to be completely blank, not blank. You get the idea.
Yeah.
Blunt. And so I went to a public school because I'd always gone to public schools up to that point, and it was, it was a very interesting experience. I learned a lot, but I moved to a private school, which was, I was lucky to be able to do that, but it was a little school. It was an experimental school, and it was really weird, and it went bankrupt shortly after I went there. So, it was a funky little situation. But I met a lot of good friends. Living in Dallas as a kid or as a young person without a car is really difficult. There's no public transit. There's no sidewalks. It's really hot. So I didn't like it a whole lot down there, but I'm grateful for my time there because, it definitely is a really big part of like what, made me into who I am today.
Yeah, no, I got family in Texas. The walkability is just
non-existent.
It's not there. It's like you got to drive 40 minutes to get to the grocery store. But like my house is cheap. I don't care.
Yeah, you get what you pay for,
Yeah.
So that's my opinion on. But no hate to Dallas, and I love a lot of my friends that still live down there, and I respect that their positive opinions on Dallas. It's just not for me. So yeah, I came back to Pittsburgh, and I applied to a school that my best friend went to, and I didn't get in because of my middle school grades. So I decided, people always think that I went to college early because I was smart. It was literally the opposite. I didn't get into the high school that I wanted to. I didn't want to go to Alderdice. I didn't like some of the people I knew who went there, and it just wasn't my vibe. So I just started going to CCAC for community college classes when I was 15. I did an exchange program with my best friend, and I came back to the country. It was the first time I left the country. And I came back, and there was a little letter along with like my family friend, this Buddhist monk from Dallas, who we're really close with, who is unfortunately has cancer now. But I came back, and there was a letter of acceptance to community college of Allegheny County, and I was pretty surprised by that. And so I started taking classes, and they actually came after me because I wasn't supposed to be taking more than 2 classes, but I was taking 12 credits like a semester. Just funny.
What were the rules with that?
The rules were that you're supposed to be dual enrollment and taking, normal classes, and I was like homeschooling dual enrollment, but I wasn't dual enrolled. I was just taking 4 classes a semester, which is a high school student who didn't have a great academic, background. It's crazy to look at I beat myself up whenever I, don't do excellent now, and it's crazy to look back where I was because I was just a complete like screw up when I was in school, when I was younger, in elementary school and middle school. So to me, that's part of the reason that school is so important to me. It's kind of like reclaiming something that I feel like I was behind. I just could the curve was like this, I really, really worked hard to rapidly improve, and I'm really grateful for where I am today and the opportunities that I had. But yeah, I took a lot of cool classes, and I really, that atmosphere was so much better for me than a conventional school. Taking breaks between classes, getting fresh air, kind of being able to study on my own schedule, waking up, at a more reasonable time, not having to wake up at like 6 a.m. and stuff. So I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed CCAC.
What did your parents think about that move?
I think my parents were so confused as to what to do with me that they were happy that I was doing anything, and that I was going to get, I got a state diploma and stuff from that, and I just transferred all the credits to Pitt, which I'll get into. But my father was pretty supportive. My mom worked a lot, so I think she was just kind of, I do whatever I do. And my mom working has, kind of like leads me into how and why I got to go to Pitt, because I applied, and I thought it was a long shot, but I'd done pretty well at any community college, and I worked a lot. I worked like 40 hours a week. Before I worked 40 hours a week, at Starbucks officially and stuff. I was working on like some Russian food trucks with some guys from Bashkortostan and stuff. So, I'd been hustling, and I think that helps my application, that I worked like a lot from a pretty young age.
The child labor.
Yeah. Start working at 14. And I think people, I think there might've been better ways to spend the time, but I was making my own money, and I was independent, and I bought my first car for $300. I just was.
Those were the days.
Yeah, this is a little different, not that long ago, but this feels really long ago. So yeah, then I applied to Pitt, and that is probably the single thing that changed my life the most out of anything. I think it's the best, maybe one of the best things that ever happened to me. Because my mother's a faculty, she works in a med pathology lab here, but she teaches classes at the medical school, and so I did not have to pay to go to Pitt, which is I think I think that's how everybody should go to college in my sort of idealistic utopian worldview, but unfortunately, it's really like not always the case. So I'm really grateful for that, because a lot of the projects I'm able to do, a lot of the travel I've been able to do, the hobbies, on things I've been able to enjoy, I wouldn't be able to do with student debt.
I mean, you are sort of like a walking, living example of why education is the most important possible thing society can focus on, with you having gone straight from middle school to community college and doing all the incredible things that you're doing right now.
Yeah. I mean, I was somebody who felt really insecure when I would talk to people who traveled, when people came from different backgrounds. I always thought that was fascinating. A lot of people are skeptical, and I always thought it was super intriguing, to the point, though, that I was, I felt bad about myself. I was just like, I'm just here. I'm from America. I've lived in America all my life, and I haven't really seen anywhere else, and I feel like I need to really build my perspective. But what I realized was that I can build my perspective, and I can give myself other frames of reference kind of to enhance how I look at the world and enhance my critical thinking. So I traveled a lot. After COVID, I traveled a lot. I bought the cheapest flights to Europe with a friend from New York for $200, like one way. And it's not a nothing amount of money, but when people think of like going to 7 countries in Europe, they don't think of spending, under $1,000. And that was what we did on flights. So it's just
that's impressive.
Yeah, thank you. That was I really acknowledge that I've been lucky. I also like to let people know that you can take what your luck is and do a lot of different things with it. And so I think the last couple of years, to toot my own horn a little bit, I think I did a pretty good job of you being resourceful.
I was gonna say, luck is really when preparation meets opportunity.
I love that quote.
It's totally, you can totally squander your opportunity, but you took the most of what you had.
Yeah. And then the following summer I went to Asia, and this last summer I went to Brazil with like 10 of my best friends. So we did that super cheap. And both of those trips, I had a lot of help along the way from friends and their families and stuff. And I've just been able to do so much for like so little money, and with, such great people around me and stuff. Like the mental and emotional cost I think is much lower because I had so much help along the way. So yeah, I agree. I think 100% to circle back, like I look at the opportunities that education has afforded me, and I think about how I had President Obama, when he was like elected, was talking about just like the state of the country, and he was saying I had not just a second chance, I had 6th, 7th, 16th chances, and that's how I feel sometimes. If I didn't have the support from my friends and family, and just like the university from for all the complaints that I can have, I'm incredibly grateful to everyone who's been involved in my life up to this point, because it's going well. I'm pretty happy. So.
So then on Pitt, what are you studying here at Pitt?
Yeah, so I study neuroscience and psychology. I have 2 majors, and I have 2 minors, although one of them is kind of a cheat code because you have to get a chem minor with neuroscience, but I have a chem minor and I have a Chinese minor. I like Mandarin, simplified. So I was going to graduate really early because of all my credits from high school, and I didn't want to. I really had found a place that I enjoyed and friends, and even if I was going to go to grad school, which I didn't even really think about that much until recently, I was just really happy with where I was at, so I decided to add the Chinese minor, and I was still going to graduate early, and then I went 100% the other direction. So instead of graduating at least a year, if not 2 years early, I'm now graduating a year late because I added the neuro major, but I'm completely happy with that, so it's a choice I decided to make for myself. I think when I was younger, I didn't believe I could do STEM. I didn't think I could, I thought that was for people who weren't like me. After like growing up, just kind of like failing at school from like basically the first grade, they went from saying they wanted to put me in a gift program the first day. A week later, they told my dad it was child abuse not to put me on Adderall. And that was, part of the reason we started like bumping around schools and stuff, because I was in my own little world, and I didn't really function in a conventional classroom environment very well. So I'm happy here, and I can't believe that I'm able to study what I do, and now I'm trying to TA in the spring and do research, and so it's really different than the background of mediocrity that I kind of, not like my family, but myself, my own efforts, were really low when I was younger.
When did the switch flip?
Yeah. Okay. So there's a lot of lore behind that, but I guess what I'll say is, right around winter break, of my freshman year, I met some people who I really associated with a lot more, at least at the time. And, we had some pretty close, experiences. Like, we did a lot that I hadn't really done with anyone. And then we long story short, we just were interested in like working on projects together and building things together, and we went to DC. We went like in the spring. We went to a Playboy Carti concert in Canton, Ohio.
Playboy Carti was the canon event.
Yeah, basically, and he was like part of it. It was basically that winter break. I met people who really matched my energy, and I'd never met somebody before that, or a group that I always felt like I was the one who had crazy ideas, but there's not really anybody I could work on them with, and so it always kind of felt like it was just in my head. And I think that's part of the reason I started bringing my dreams into reality in a way, is like because I didn't know I could before, and that changed it.
You found community.
Yeah, because you can't do it alone, man. Like nobody gets through this alone. Like you need two parents to be born. Like you're sort of the only person there for yourself, but at the same time, you're totally not. You need
two parents to be born. That's a bar.
Yeah, it's true. Like you don't exist independent of the universe. So, yeah, basically. What we were able to build together was really special, and a lot of those people I don't work with anymore, but I have to extend my gratitude that to the extent that they really did change my life, and they opened me up to a lot of new perspectives, and that's what allowed me to meet a lot of the friends that I'm really, 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 really grateful for, who are the people I'm with today, who are the people I threw the show in New York with, and the people I went to Brazil with and everything. So all my friends from Case Western and Columbia University and CMU too and stuff. So yeah, I think your friends and the people that you network with are the most important and valuable thing you'll ever have in your life. So you got to choose them carefully. It takes time to meet the right people, and that's okay. You're not going to have your perfect friendship group your freshman year.
It's bar. So how did we get into the whole music side of things?
Yeah, so it was that same group, and we started by going to shows. Well, I started going to shows even before I met them, and that's how I met a lot of people. Like Ben from Funky Lamp and stuff. Like a friend of mine got too drunk, and we carried him back, and I met Ben that way, and just taking care of my friend, and then he started giving me bass lessons and stuff. But we also I went to a lot of shows, and I had my first kiss at a house show at Pitt, actually, right at the start of my freshman year. I wasn't very active in high school because I didn't know anybody my age, Girls would talk to me, and they'd realize that they were 22, and I was 15, 16, and, it was a little problematic. So, yeah, I didn't do anything, and that totally changed, everything. I went from having no romantic, experiences like that at all into, really, being with all sorts of different people and having a lot of fun and really bolstering my confidence. But yeah, going to house shows was how it started. And then this group that I was talking about, we decided that we wanted to have a music venue. And originally we wanted to get the space that's across from the campus deli on Bates, Semple and Bates, I think, yeah. And that didn't work out because they didn't take us seriously enough. It was going to be like $3,000 a month. We didn't have the money. We were like, we wanted to sell chicken sandwiches. One of my friend's ideas was to sell chicken sandwiches to offset the cost of the business, which is so absurd. Like 80% of restaurants fail. Yeah. And we're talking about, I had worked in food service and they hadn't. And I was just like, chicken is the nastiest thing to work with. It's so, you have to be really careful with the process.
You gotta account for.
So we didn't do that. And what we instead did is we got a house and we started throwing shows in that house. And the house was called the Black Lodge. And a lot of people will remember that. That was, you were there, you helped us with the door and stuff. And
that's
so
how we met?
Yeah, that's literally, that is how we met. Or the summer before that, maybe at the pool party here, but I can't, one of those. Yeah. That's definitely how we started talking and stuff. So, we ran shows there, and we started with Funky Lamp, and I asked Ben, I was like, can I pay you $20 to do a show in my living room? And he was like, sure. And so he did that, and he got Funky Lamp to do that. And then I asked my friends, Travis and them, who I just remembered from jamming on, floor 5 of Nordenberg, do you want to do a show? And so then we just started doing shows, and then people started hitting us up to do shows. We started booking 3-4 bands twice a week, making flyers. So, we had an Instagram following 3,000 something followers. And so, for somebody who felt like they hadn't done anything, this was pretty cool. And my ex moved in with me to that house, and I lived with some of my best friends at the time, and I just really, really, really expanded my horizons, living there as a creative space, and it was amazing. And then we did get a cease and desist, which is not a very serious, thing, but they tell you got to stop.
You got to cease and desist.
Yeah, so I ceased and desisted, and I moved out after that. There was a lot of other stuff going on with the house. It's really stressful when you work with people on bigger and bigger projects, and we had expanded, so we started doing, I helped organize Oakland Indie Fest, and that was kind of the last project I did with that group. a lot of different, that's something when you start working with people and then you evolve with them, goals change and different people have different creative visions. And so I really enjoyed my time there, but I kind of wanted to do my own thing, and I decided I was going to do neuroscience, and I had relationships transitioning and everything was changing, and so I moved out. And actually, it was a pretty rough time at the end of all that, because it was really amazing. Like I said, the whole time, I'd gotten better at, actually had done I did like help with playing something on stage sort of once, and hadn't really formulated a band, but we did Oakland Indie Fest, and then I had some rough stuff, because that happens in life sometimes, and I booked the cheapest ticket I could for $400 something from Cleveland to Japan to Tokyo, and I went to Tokyo, and I planned this a little bit because I had to get a visa to go to mainland China, but then some friends put me up in China, and I just got to travel most of China over the course of a month, basically entirely for free. I went to Korea, and I was there for free. My friend's family just put me up, so I just kind of couch surfed across East Asia for the summer, and then I came back and I was like, I'm ready. I started organizing the Unplugged project while I was in Tokyo. I was in Starbucks in Tokyo, and I put together just like a flyer template for the fall, and I was like, we're gonna do Unplugged Oakland on Flagstaff Hill, just like we did just like we'd done shows in the past, and that's where that all took off, and now we're here. So.
We'll definitely get more into Unplugged in the
second half.
But before we finish off this first half, of course, as I ask everybody who comes on this show, what is the greatest piece of life advice that you can pass on to people watching and listening?
Oh, man. Yeah, I would say take risks, but take calculated risks. And really how good you are at something, people talk so much about talent. And that's great, and it's real. But I think the biggest piece of life advice I could give to someone, and especially like my younger self, is how good you get at something really just is the time that you put into it times the effort and energy that you put into it. And that's the best equation that I've found for gauging your results. I don't think that even if you're talented, nobody wakes up knowing how to speak Chinese. Nobody wakes up knowing how to play an instrument. Nobody wakes up knowing how to do calculus, or nobody's born, doing any of those things. So yeah, if you want to fly a plane, if you want to do shows, there's a little bit of risk, but you try to take risks that don't hurt people and aren't like really seriously against the law. And yeah, you can take risks, but like, do them for things that are actually worth risking it for. So I would say those are like that kind of as a collective is like in the aggregate is my best like life advice to somebody.
That's great advice.
Yeah, I tell it to myself a lot.
So moving into this week's artist spotlight, we'll be playing the single "Take Me" by 957. I hope y'all enjoy.
Where do you wanna go? Do you think I am special enough to go and show me where you are? What do you wanna see? Am I just ordinary enough for you to give this thing a try? And I will follow you where you want to go now, baby. Oh, and I will follow you where you take control now, baby. Just take me.
Hope y'all enjoyed this week's Artist Spotlight, Take Me by 957. The artist page will be in the link of the description, whether you are watching or listening. Now, this week's episode, the second half, we'll be continuing our theme of creative innovation. Rory has a lot of very interesting passions, some that I would consider unrelated from each other, and that definitely fits into the whole veil of social innovation and leading to social change as a whole. So I will leave the floor open to Rory. Enlighten us.
Sure, yeah. So I have a lot to say about that. I guess we'll segue into Unplugged because that is that. Unplugged is me having a lot of different things that I like. You know, I've always been pretty, intensely ADHD, and that's part of the reason I struggled with school when I was younger. So I have a lot of different ideas, and I do a lot of different things. And for me, Unplugged was me. I had a lot of my own ideas when I would work on creative projects that I didn't really get to pursue. And when I got to actually have that independence and got to work completely on my own and be the head of a project, I just started working on everything. So my friends were working on, some stuff with machine learning at Case Western, like we talked about, and it's a project that I'm very lightly involved in right now. But it's they were training language models, and we were talking about creating an AI to assist people with starting house shows and stuff, and we ended up just making an academic advisor instead and did some more realistic stuff. But I have ridiculous ideas. Some of them are stupid, but I just try to pursue the ones that I get a little bit of positive response from other people. And another thing that I do is, like you said, things that don't seem like they're connected, it's I connect them, so something that's really for instance, just because AI is super hot right now, when you have hidden layers in a model, and you have all these interactions that you don't see, there still is all these interactions between the nodes of the neurons, depending on how you like to take a more CS perspective or a neuroscience perspective, which is one thing I think is really cool about AI. I can rabbit hole down that, but for me, there's a lot of hidden layers, but up here, it all makes sense. I connect speaking Chinese to just speaking better English, and I connect speaking better English to expressing myself better, which connects to music. And I think that I connect that to business too, because at the end of the day, capital is sort of a really efficient energy transfer that you can use to express yourself or get something you want or make an idea happen. So I think there's a lot of things wrong with capitalism, and I don't think it should be the central focus of everything, but it's as a system that I exist within. I use it with how I interact with capitalism and how I interact with the world at large. I see a lot of interactions, and I really put emphasis on those interactions because I study the brain, and that's how the brain works. You're strengthening synapses, you're forming new synapses. The brain is plastic, you are plastic. You can change your life and you can change yourself by forming new associations. So I'm really into music. I throw shows. Something that we've done with the shows is incorporate little craft, booths and sell other merchandise. And we've done, I've incorporated, I love to travel. So I just was we're going to start doing shows all over the place. So we did a show in New York, in Manhattan, a block from Central Park. That was probably one of our most successful events. We rented a place that's it's a DMT therapy clinic. This is legal in New York during the day, and the guy just rents it on Pier Space at night. And so we did a show there, and there's a balcony, and we had people selling their fashion. We had a lot of people from Columbia University and NYU. And I do a lot of shows at Case Western too. So I'll work on a project with somebody for our ML stuff. And then, we'll go downstairs and they have a suit of armor that we put all these black lights in and stuff. And we throw concerts in the Sigma Newhouse there. And we want to do a show in Berlin. We'll see if we're able to do that just with budgeting and stuff.
Before we keep going, explain what the Unplugged project is to anybody who's completely out of the blue.
Yeah, that's a good way to lead into it, I think. So basically, I called the project Unplugged, and a lot of people thought that we just do acoustic shows because of that, which is not true. I've had EDM artists play at Unplugged shows. Unplugged to me is sort of the interaction of using social media to orchestrate the scene, because that's how the scene is organized. We do use the internet. We do use Instagram. That's how things go now, and people who are kind of trying to live in denial of that just don't see their projects succeed because it's not going to work, so for me, Unplugged it kind of represents unplugging. It's we do all this work online. We have all these, this digital creativity, but we unplug to actually enjoy the events that we create with that. So unplugged is kind of like the state of being when you are enjoying the fruits of that digital labor. And that's like the simplest way I can explain it to people. The logo is the chemical structure for dopamine, and I just made it into a smiley face because I was just, I had just gotten into neuro and biochem and stuff when I was, starting the project. So I just was like, what would be a cool logo? We just did that. Yeah, that is what Unplugged is. In essence, it is a creative project that I do with my friends to have fun and raise money for animal shelters sometimes. But, there's so many. It's very multifaceted, I guess. It's just a very multifaceted creative project.
So it's really about bringing people together.
Yeah. And it started with me just bringing my friends together, and it brought so many more people together. It really started as a way for me to work on something, that I had a little bit of direction with, because I didn't feel like I had enough direction in projects I worked on in the past. But then it evolved into, now everybody has, like I didn't come up with the idea of doing the show in New York. That was my friend, Alex from Case Western. And I was like, sure. And then we did it. And we actually sold tickets, and I was like, can we sell tickets for $20? And apparently you can in New York, so it's, it's like we make the boards behind the stage. We hand painted them all for the festival on Flagstaff. And my friend brought her cats that she adopted from the animal shelter. Ava brought her cats, Nyalko and Seki. And I put those cats on custom t-shirts that we made for the merch and stuff. So you can see those on the Instagram page. But now it's basically an excuse to hang out, have a project, promote people's music, like 957, they're one of my favorite artists right now, and have fun, while we're doing it, because work is hard, but if you love what you do, you'll never work a day in your life, and that's super.
Amen.
Yeah.
So my question for you is, being a neuropsych double major, how does Unplugged relate to what you're studying?
Yeah, well, I think it relates to, I have to learn so much to throw these shows. I knew nothing about audio engineering. I knew nothing about booking a peer space. I didn't know anything about local regulations and zoning. And when I consider opening, a permanent venue in Pittsburgh, the stuff that I've, learning about law, learning about everything. So it's information processing, and it's also work and networking, I guess, which is kind of like a cringy LinkedIn word, but I've met a lot of really cool lunatics. People. Yeah, I don't like to be like a LinkedIn-esque individual, but yeah, it fits in because it's sort of the fun side of all of that. I think there's a lot of stuff I could go into about how I think that it all like music connects to everything. Like when I study, it's the same as trying to get good at a new song. You have to really zoom in, and then you bring it all out, and one day you just work and you don't see how it all connects, and then you just keep working and you zoom out one day and it's all just there, and you can play a song and you can ace an exam. But it's not like at the end of the day, it is like a creative project, and I want to connect it more and more to what I actually study and my vocation and stuff in the future. But right now it's sort of like when I'm taking a break from one thing, I'm working on another thing. I'm working on my car, I'm working on Unplugged, I'm working on music, I'm working on, another random project. And so Unplugged is kind of like what I toggle for back and forth between with school.
So then moving into some of your other endeavors, tell us more about the AI aspect of it.
Yeah. So, it was kind of on the down low for a while, but now that we're working more officially with a lab at Case Western, my friends, Artem Zaborov and Ruslan Zaborov, they have the Zaborov Brothers LLC in Cleveland. And basically, to give a general gist of what we're working on, it has to do with using spot instances more efficiently to train language models. So right now, there's on-demand computing. This is what every big company like OpenAI is using to train their models. What we're doing is taking those spot instances and, because when somebody makes an on-demand order, if OpenAI makes an on-demand order and you're using a cheap spot instance, which is a little bit slower, it's still quite effective at training a model, you can afford to use that on-demand computing, you could just get kicked off. So what we're doing is we're trying to connect all the spot instances to use decentralized computing to train the models for a much lower price, almost as effectively. It's a really ambitious project. It's really new research. The papers originally came out of CMU. And it's funny because I'm working with people on it at Case Western, but yeah, it was funny. We started this thing called the Case Assistant, and that's how it began. And that was an AI academic advisor. And we had meetings, 5 meetings with the Case Western Reserve, and then they kind of ghosted us. So then we were like, all right, we're going to do our own thing. And Art and, Alex and everybody at Case are doing a lot of the actual heavy lifting with coding and stuff for that project. But, I'm involved in it, and I really enjoy learning so much. Like, that's another thing, I've learned so much being in college, but that project especially has taught me a lot. Higher math, computer science, stuff that I never had any understanding of before I started at Pitt. So
how do you balance the machine learning, the Unplugged project, with being a double major, double minor?
With difficulty sometimes. I have decided to put school first, and that is kind of the base for all other affairs. School needs to be going well for me to throw a concert or something. So right now I'm probably not going to throw any, too many more shows because the weather's gotten worse, and also because I'm just focusing on finals and stuff. But you have to prioritize, and you have to have help. I with a lot of gratitude, use a lot of help from a lot of people and a lot of friends who make this project possible. I couldn't do it on my own. I couldn't have done the New York show on my own. I couldn't do the show on Flagstaff on my own. I couldn't do any of it on my own. I have a team of engineers from Case Western who helped me set up all my audio equipment and heavy equipment. And, these are people who have won physics Olympiads and have 4.0 GPAs, and they're just super talented, super smart, super hardworking, most importantly. And then I have musicians, who just do these shows, and, if they're for charity, those people do it for free. So, every time I do a show that we raise money for an animal shelter or something, all those are all people who are giving their time to share, their creative works, to be vulnerable and open, and to do it for a good cause. Nobody, anybody who tries to take that, I try to give a lot of credit to people. I am really skeptical of people who try to take a lot of credit for things. Because I think that more often than not, people who take credit and put a lot of emphasis on making sure other people know that they deserve the credit for something are the people who are really doing,
the least.
Yeah. Or at least, are toxic people to work with. So one or the other. That's something that I try to fit into my, not business model, but project model, I guess. So, yeah.
So let's say there's somebody out here, which I'm sure there's somebody out here watching this who wants to begin their own project endeavors.
I'm so glad that you mentioned that. Yeah.
They've never been able to network and build that community. What advice could you pass on to them? How do you form these relationships that help you in terms of business and creative passions?
Oh my, so this is probably the most important part of the pod. I sort of wish I led with this, because when you asked about Unplugged, one of my long-term goals with the project is to create a platform, a social media platform, to help people do that, to launch their own creative projects, to promote their music better. I don't think that Instagram is really a sufficient platform for doing what we're trying to do, but it's the only platform right now that's used as widely by college students as we need it to be. You don't see people, nobody uses side chat, so no offense to side chat, but the most important advice I would say is start now. Tomorrow never comes. It doesn't happen. There's only ever the present moment. So no matter how hard it is, you do have to, the hardest thing for me, many days is getting out of bed and getting the day started. And once you have momentum, you're good. With meeting different people, there's different advice for different spheres, but there's a lot of really interchangeable or broad advice that I could give that would help you, meet people. You have to go out and do things in real life. First off, you can't be scrolling on Instagram Reels every weekend. It's important to study, but it's also important to get out and meet people. And also, the best advice I can give is you don't learn by preparing. You learn by doing. You don't become a great musician by sitting in your room by yourself and practicing songs or rudiments. You learn from what I've experienced, what I've witnessed, because I don't consider myself to be a great musician. I'd love to be a great musician one day.
But you're getting there.
Yeah. All my friends who are great musicians went out and started making music with people. And all my friends who are very well off financially, who did it themselves, they started trading. They started working on projects. They made an LLC. They started doing. And I'd say, well, the biggest thing is with school, like you said, like, how do I balance neuro and stuff? Well, I didn't really know how I was going to do it at the start. I just did it. I signed up for these classes. I declared this major that like is way harder than a psych major, at least for me. Different people have different, skills. But, I was not the type of guy that ever thought I was going to take OChem. And I'm taking OChem. And it's like,
It's OChem.
Yeah. First exam went super well. It's pretty easy. Second exam, I got to lock in, So I'm not ashamed to admit that. But the biggest thing is sign up for the class. You want to learn calculus, you want to learn differential equations, you want to learn linear algebra, you want to learn music theory, whatever, do the class. Just like you're not going to sit in your room and learn it, at least not fast, not while you're young. And that's the fastest way to do something that's really hard because you need social accountability to motivate you. Most people do, especially now,
See, look, if the mic wasn't on a stand, it probably would have dropped right now. Yeah.
I think that is like, I think about that a lot, and that's what I want to impart. I want to start doing more content creation for the YouTube channel and stuff and really help people get to that point because, there's very specific advice I can give for starting a music venue or for starting, a business, but, investing in real estate, whatever you're doing. But the broad advice is that basically.
So what does life for Rory look like past undergrad?
Past undergrad, that's a really good question. There's a couple different paths. So med school being the hardest and perhaps most unlikely, at least immediately after undergrad, I'm probably going to need to, I've done a lot of volunteer hours that I would need to do and stuff, and I need to really, lock in for the MCAT. So I don't think I'm going to med school straight out of, college. I might do a master's program, which I'd either study business, I don't think so, but possibly, or computational neuroscience, which is what I would do if I wanted to go onto the med track, give myself some extra time. I also have considered moving to Taiwan because I have friends there and I want to improve my Mandarin. So I might do that for a couple months. And then lastly, opening up a music venue in South Oakland or in Central Oakland that I would run as a cafe and study space during the day. And perhaps like zoning laws and stuff are really difficult in Pittsburgh with like serving alcohol and having people who are under 21 there. But that's something I would love to do is like have a cocktail bar at night and the same place. And then on the weekends, just have bands Thursday, Friday, Saturday, if possible, and compensate them fairly and give them a platform and do something I love like nonstop to make a living, But I have a lot of different ideas and they're not always compatible and you do only have so much time and energy. So, that's a big thing for me is picking what am I going to do. Those are the options right now. That's like the stack.
Well, it's very exciting.
Yeah, they're all good things. Whatever happens, I'll go with the flow of the current, I guess.
So before we get out of here, is there anything else you want to get across to the audience?
Yeah, I guess follow Unplugged_PGH on Instagram. We have a website and we're going to do more shows in the spring and stuff. Continue to do more shows. All of my team members that make this possible are all, they're all listed on my website. And so, shout out to everybody on the Unplugged team, Alex, Ava, Jacob, everybody. There's so many people now, it started with like just me and now there's like 20 people on my team. I would say just do it. Nike, whatever you want in this life, you will attract it, but you need to be reciprocal with that relationship. You need to put back in because it's not just gonna, most of the time it doesn't fall into your lap. Sometimes it does, but yeah, I'd say good luck everyone with finals and, thank you to Ian for just like running this pod and I don't know, continuing to be involved, so involved in so many different stratospheres on campus. Like you just do so much, dude, and you're all over the place and you're constantly moving, constantly working. So I think a lot of people see you as extremely inspirational in that regard.
I appreciate that.
Oh.
So all things Rory, all things Unplugged will be in the description of this episode. I highly encourage that you not only follow Unplugged, but also follow Rory.
You can see my travels and my projects.
Exactly. Great guy. Obviously very interesting as we've learned throughout this episode. But anyways, y'all, this has been another incredible week of the Let's Talk Social Innovation podcast. Hopefully we have a bonus episode for you over the Thanksgiving break. But if not, I wish you a restful week so that we can lock down and get through finals, y'all. But anyways, this is your host, Ian Kahinde, and we are signing off. Peace out, everybody.